You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you at Life is a Sacred Journey. I know you see behind me this beautiful backdrop. I'm going to fix it. It's not quite right yet, but there it is. And it was the backdrop for the California Nevada Conference, and I fell in love with it. And the artist is Rebecca Ellis, and she is amazing. When I said, can I use it for my backdrop for Life is a Sacred Journey? She said yes, or for my Zooms or whatever, she said yes. So I hope you like it. Put in the chat what you think about it. It's a heart. I'm not going to go biblical on you. The theme of our conference was witness, to be a witness to a new thing. And so I thought I would have you witness a new thing behind me for a little while. Rebecca Ellis, her phone number is 650-868-5884 if you're interested in getting her to do something for you. Rebecca, thank you so much. I know you have popped into Life is a Sacred Journey from time to time. I went to the eye doctor yesterday, so I have new contacts that we're practicing with. So bear with me. Putting yourself first as a caregiver is sometimes the most difficult thing to do. Actually, it's always the most difficult thing to do. And the reason for that is because we're always trying to figure out how to care for our loved one. We focus there. We want our mind to be there because it's important for us to, really focus on their care needs. And this morning, we're so fortunate to have with us Iris Waichler. And she is an MSW, Master's Social Work, and also a licensed clinical social worker who has been a medical social worker for over 40 years. She has counseled people and catastrophic illnesses and their families. Iris was a caregiver for her parents. I'm going to find my admit button so she can come in as we're doing this. She was a caregiver for her parents and helped two friends to die with dignity. Something we always talk about on Life is a Sacred Journey. How do we set that up, not only for ourselves, but for those that we love? Iris is a 12-time award-winning author of 3 books. Her most recent book, Role Reversal, How to Take Care of Yourself and Your Aging Parents, won 6 major book awards. She has authored many, many articles on healthcare and mental health topics, and she has contributed to blogs on infertility, aging, and caregiving. And she is currently a regular contributor to choosingtherapy.com. And I just want to thank Iris for joining us this morning. Thank you, Iris, for joining us on Life is a Sacred Journey. All of you in the virtual neighborhood, help me to welcome Iris. And am I saying Waichler? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Michelle. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully.
Great. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you among us. I'm going to dive right in. Friends, this past week, there was a good friend of mine that I had asked her to come and do something with me, and she couldn't do it because her mom is older, 94 years old. And she has been a caregiver for her mom for over 19 years, and she couldn't come. She said yes, and then had to change it because her mom's care needs trumped my request. I'm not saying that in a way to say, oh, she didn't do what I asked her to do. What I'm saying is caregiving changes your life. Second to second, moment to moment. You have plans for yourself as an individual, and then those plans get changed because of the needs of the person that you're caring for. So Iris, the one thing that I know that happens with caregivers is there becomes sometimes a disconnect from their own lives and the continued growth, both mind, body, and spirit, for them because they're focused on enhancing and engaging with the mind, body, and spirit of the person that they're caring for. So could you share your experience from sort of that paradigm? Because I know after 40 years of experience and doing it yourself, you definitely understand kind of where I'm going with that question.
Yeah, I think you set it up so beautifully, Michelle. That is the biggest problem for caregivers because, and let me just say that 65% of caregivers are women, and women are really bad at saying no. And women are so wonderful at taking care of other people, but not so great about taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think what happens, and it happened for me personally, and I've saw it professionally, caregiving becomes all consuming. And you get to a point where you feel that no one can do the job the way that you can. And many times the people that we're taking care of say, I only want you to be the one. And what happens is, this is the biggest problem I see for caregivers, is caregiver burnout. People their caregivers can't say no. And it takes a toll. It takes a toll physically. You start getting symptoms of headaches and body aches. Your gut gets upset. It gets in your system that way. It takes a toll emotionally. You get more anxious. You get more irritable. There's a lot of depression for caregivers. That's a huge issue. Because you feel a sense of helplessness and hopelessness. You see the person that you love and you've known changing, and you see that person slowly moving away in a lot of ways, and that's so painful. And that's the first time you lose the person. And then the second time is when they ultimately die, and it's a very long and difficult and painful process where you're consumed with grief. And I think the biggest things that caregivers can do to help themselves is to pay attention to their bodies and not get to that point. When you know you have to become a caregiver, the first thing you need to do is figure out who else is going to be there to help you.
Yes.
And when your friend's situation that you described, I'm guessing she was reluctant to ask for help for somebody. I just had lunch with a friend yesterday who's a caregiver, and she carved out an hour to come and have lunch with me. And she had someone come and just stay with her husband for an hour. And it was tough for her to be away. And she said, I think I better go.
Yeah.
But she made a point of saying, this was really important for me to see you today and talk about what's going on. And so what caregivers need to do is identify people in their lives. It could be other family members. It could be a neighbor. It could be someone from your church, or it could be a healthcare professional, someone to come in and carve out what they call respite care, which is a time when a caregiver can go and take a break, because everybody needs a break, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a parent, whether you've got a job, whoever you are, you need a break where you need time to take care of yourself. And it could be something as simple as taking a warm bath, or reading a book, or going for a walk, or spending time with a friend. But I think caregivers are consumed with guilt, and they feel when they're shining the light on themselves that they feel they're not taking care of somebody else. And what I'm here to tell you is it's really important to make those efforts and to do it guilt-free. Because when you're taking care of yourself, in reality, you're also taking care of the person that you're being a caregiver for.
And the other side of it is this whole caregiving season, I'm going to call it that, the caregiving season in most of our lives, especially if I know I've been a caregiver multiple times, not just for people who have my DNA blood going through their veins, but for people who I care about, friends, loved ones. Yes, guilt. Iris, thank you for that. Because you make a promise, and you may not have even verbally made that promise, but you make a promise in your heart, you make a promise in your mind and you vision that promise, at least if you're somebody like me. I visioned my promise and what I was going to do and how I was going to live it out for this person. And when I couldn't fulfill it to that level of my imagination of what a caregiver should be, the guilt that I had around that was profound. And I guess what I'm asking you now is, how do we move from that place of guilt? Because it's innately a part of who we are when we fall short of our dreams.
Yeah, and I think another piece of what you're saying too is, when you make that promise, you may be making that promise under a set of circumstances. Maybe you're going to be a caregiver for a week, and you know what the person's condition is. but things change and things happen with time. And I was a caregiver for my dad, and I agreed to do it, and then he had a hemorrhage in his brain, and then he had a problem swallowing, and then his walking got worse. So what I would say is you need to understand that this is something that you'll do the best you can, but there may come a time when there are things that need to be done that you're not able to do, and you need to give yourself permission to ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, because we all need help. In my situation, there came a point in time where I knew I needed help with my dad because I couldn't physically lift him continuously as he got weaker. And so it's really important to identify people. In my dad's case, for example, my sister and I were the primary people, but I had a sister in London, but she wanted to help. And so she gave us financial support so we could hire the people to attend to my dad. And so it's important to identify the people that are close to you that have skills that can contribute to your caregiving. And it doesn't necessarily need to be physical care. Maybe there's someone you know who understands medical things, or someone you know who can read a bill. Who wants to look at insurance bills? There's all kinds of things that go into caregiving beyond the physical care. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone can help get groceries so you don't have to do it. You want to lighten the load. Maybe you need help with childcare. A lot of caregivers are in the sandwich generation, where they're simultaneously taking care of their parents and they're taking care of their children. And they may be working, and they may be a husband or a partner or a friend. Yep. And there's just no room. I don't care who you are. There's just no room to do all of those things all of the time. So you have to be kind to yourself as you are being kind to the person you're taking care of. And it's okay to say to them, I love you, and I want you to stay as healthy as you can, and I want you to have the best possible care. But I know I'm not the one that can do this particular thing. And so I'm going to help you find a person that can. And together we'll work to make sure you're as safe and well cared for as possible.
And the other, is that whole idea. I love what you just said, because working here or serving here, because I don't look at it as work, but serving here at Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, what I have seen is family, especially siblings, they may get upset with each other because I'm doing all the heavy lifting, mom's living with me. And I said the very thing that you just said is allow them to do what they can do. If you live in the same home with your loved one, it's kind of unfair to keep throwing daggers at the person that doesn't live in the same home, because of course you're going to be with them 24 hours a day if you live in the same square footage. But maybe the other sibling can give funds. Maybe the other sibling can come every Saturday, but to beat them up because they're not physically in the home to be there at that 3 a.m. call is also showing that there's burnout. Am I right or wrong?
You could not be more right, Michelle. You could not be more right. Okay. And here's the other thing I would say that's really important and people don't do and can prevent some of what you're talking about. People wait until there's a medical crisis to have the caregiver conversation. And what I always recommend to people is don't wait till your parent or someone you love is sick. We made that mistake with my mom. She got cancer when she was 56 and it metastasized to her brain. And so we couldn't have a conversation with her about what she wanted done. And so when someone is healthy, especially if you're talking about parents, because most of us, that's the caregiver statistics are us taking care of our parents. When your parents are healthy, you begin the conversation because they're probably not. And you can simply say, I love you and I want to be here for you. And I really want to talk about, as you get older, what kinds of help, what kinds of things do you want done? How do you see yourself aging? Because I love you and I want to help make sure you have the most independence you can with the best possible care. Yeah. And then you raise questions like, do you see yourself staying at home if you get sick? Do you feel that family members need to be the ones to help you?
Yeah.
If you needed help with things that I couldn't do, or a family couldn't do, would you be okay with us bringing in a healthcare professional? And it starts like that. And lots of times people don't want to talk about it because it's scary as can be, because you're talking about mortality. You're talking about very personal things that we don't talk to our parents about. You're talking about finances. You're talking about legal things, because your parents have to decide who's going to be the one to make the decisions for you. If you have a medical crisis and you can't speak for yourself, so those are things like living wills or healthcare power of attorneys or healthcare proxies. So you open the door with that and I can't tell you what a gift it is. After my mom, my father and I had that conversation, legally everything was in place. I knew exactly what his wishes were, and it was such a gift because when he did get ill, I knew exactly what he wanted. He trusted me to do what he wanted, and things went so much better. And as a caregiver, it took an enormous burden off of me because I knew what he wanted. And I can't urge people enough to have that conversation. And sometimes the door will be shut because the parents will say, I don't even want to think about getting old or whatever. But that conversation has begun, and you can reference it in the future. Maybe you're at their house and you notice they're having a little trouble climbing the stairs, and you can say, it looks like you're in some pain. What's going on? And then you can reference that conversation. And it's not one conversation. It seldom is. It's a series of conversations as circumstances change. But once that door is open, I think it's easier for everybody to begin that discussion. And it's so important, and it can be a precursor to stopping burnout if it's done correctly.
Yeah, thank you, Iris, for that. And folks, if you're just joining us, this is Life is a Sacred Journey. We're having a wonderful conversation with Iris Waichler, and she is a MSW, LCSW, who has really worked and walked beside many caregivers, and she's been a caregiver herself. So we're gonna, we thank you for coming. The other question that I have, from what you just said, I was thinking, it's hard though when you're in the middle of it and you don't know, you think of everything of aging as death and dying, right? So you don't want to think of your parents dying and all of that. And what I'm saying is to caregivers and even to folks, getting what Iris said, you're not giving up your independence. You're not giving up your decision making at all. What you're doing is preparing for the day that you can't. And that's very different. Just because I may have said to my daughter, you're in charge of all my finances when I can no longer do it myself, that doesn't mean she gets carte blanche tomorrow to go and liquidate all my assets. So you're not doing that. The language in all of these documents really protects you from that. I have to say, most of them that I've seen, and Iris can speak to that a little bit more for me, but most of the forms that I've seen and the one that I have, I'm totally protected until I can't make that decision for myself. That doesn't mean I don't trust my daughter. That doesn't mean I don't love my daughter. What it means is it's my money and it's my stuff until and it continues to be until I can't be the proper steward of it, the proper executor of it, and then I trust her to do the right thing. So a lot of people say, I don't want to put my children in charge. They might do this, they might do that, because that sense of autonomy, that sense of independence, you feel you're losing it. But this is preparatory. Right, Iris?
Oh, thank you so much for making those points, Michelle. That's absolutely true. It's not giving someone a blank checkbook.
Yeah.
It's just preparing and protecting yourself and giving the person that's going to help you the power to do what they can to help you. And so that's such an important point to make. And what I'm describing, it's a collaboration as opposed to a confrontation. Because the message continues to be, I love you. I want to try to do what you'd like me to do, but I want us to do it together. Yep. And our goals are the same, to keep you as independent as possible, to have you be live in my life as long as possible because I love you, and to make sure you're as healthy as possible. But if you jump in when someone's sick and you come in and you say, okay, you're going to a nursing home, it becomes, of course, a conflict and a confrontation, and dealing with the ramifications of that on top of dealing with the medical crisis, it's going to overwhelm anybody. And so
why wouldn't it, right? Why
of
wouldn't it?
course, we're all human, and we can't underplay the emotional part of seeing someone we love in pain and dealing with medical crises. It's really overwhelming, and that's sort of the intangible part. You don't realize that that's coming at you, and that's often the part that really overwhelms you. And so I guess the other thing I would say to help ourselves is you have, like my friend did, you have to carve out time to you have to identify someone in your life you can talk to, someone you trust, to talk about the challenges that you're facing, to talk about the good things that are happening and the not so good. And many people say, I can't get out because I'm a caregiver, but there are places you can go on the internet. There's chat rooms you can go to, the Family Caregiver Alliance and other Alzheimer's Association. You're a part of that. There's wonderful places online at 3 a.m. And if you want to go online, you can probably find a chat room. And it's so important to talk to other people that are in the same circumstances you are, to understand that what you're feeling is not something that's unique to you, that other people that are dealing with similar circumstances are going through the same challenges that you are. It normalizes your feelings. You feel less alone. And also they can have some tips or information that you can use to help you in your particular situation. And so it's huge.
It's huge, and peer support. And Iris, I grew up, I'm in that last of the baby boomers, right? So I grew up in a time where community was really, really important. People were in community, neighborhoods were different. People now go in and out of their homes, and sometimes there's no relationship from the neighbor to the left, the neighbor to the right, other than a wave, a good morning, and an occasional happy holiday, right? So it's not the same as it was in the 50s and 60s, and the 90s, the 80s and 90s actually blew all that up when we became more of an independent population across the world. It's not just here, but as we begin to now see a shift, because I see it in the millennials. The millennials have a little taste of baby boomer in them, and then they're on that threshold, and they're beginning to see the value of family again. And so as we begin to look at this whole shift in culture, the silent generation, the last of them are alive now. And they will soon move on to, whatever your beliefs are, they will move on. And the reality is now you have this baby boomer, which is a lot of us, but this baby boomer culture of, 60 is the new 40, and all that stuff. And I'm going to say foolishness, but, for those of you that like it and it helps to keep you motivated, right on, I'm with you. But how is that, do you think, going to change the way we communicate as caregiver to aging parent as we move forward? Because we see all this independent living going up, all of this kind of stuff. But the frail years, okay, let me say this. None of us get off this side of the universe without some frail years. Okay, let's start there, my friends. Hate to tell you, it's the truth. If you live to be 100 and something, towards the end of that 100 and something, there's going to be frailty. There's going to be a need for somebody to walk with you on that journey. So we got the millennials, different kind of thinking, a little bit of baby boomer, a little bit of XYZ. And then you have this baby boomer age of the last 2 decades where we have fought aging and fought thinking about death and dying. So how do you see those coming together? Because the millennial is the new caregiver, right? Those are the people that are going to end up caregiving. And then you've got this new me
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up, Michelle. Two thoughts were running through my mind as you were talking about that. One is an interesting thing happened with the pandemic. What happened was the number of caregivers jumped from 43 million to 53 million. The second interest, and then what happened, that's because the people that were coming to our homes to help couldn't come in anymore. And so and I think I can't say that the pandemic was a good thing, but one thing that came out of it that I think addresses what you just said, the millennials and the younger folks picked up the ball and they became caregivers. And they took on that role and they are continuing to take on that role now. And so I think I see that as a positive thing. The other thing is, we have two families. We have the families that we're biologically related to, and we have the families that we choose. And so many of us can rely on the families that we choose, the loved ones that become our friends and our chosen families. And those often are people of all ages too. And those kind of bonds are pretty solid. And often without some of the baggage that we get from our family origin, because you're choosing to hang with those people and to be with those people, and you love those people and they love you. And so I think that addresses some of the concerns that you have. And there also are a lot of programs out there to help. Many of them don't cost money, because I know the money part is so scary for so many people. And so what I would tell people is, if you are taking care of a senior, for example, if you consult your local area on aging office or your local senior center, they will tell you about local programs. There may be, for example, an adult day program, even with transportation, where your loved one could go there to give you some of that relief, some of that break, if you don't have other people that can help with care. And the other thing I would say that people don't even think about is caregiving is awfully challenging, but it can be a real privilege to be with someone, to take care of them. And you can create fun and beautiful moments. There's an intimacy there that is indescribable. So as a caregiver, if you can create those moments, it makes it feel less overwhelming. And for example, what I'm saying is, if your loved one likes a particular kind of music and they're able to get up, you put on that song and you dance with them.
That's right.
If they like to be outside, even if they can't walk, you take them out in the garden, or you take them out push them in the wheelchair and you go around the block. Looking at old photos is a wonderful thing to do, because they'll tell you stories about the people in those photos. And as you know from your work with the Alzheimer's Association, the old memory is the deepest memory. And so even if you're taking care of someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's, it's really remarkable. But when you put on a song that they knew in the 30s or the 40s, the words to that song are going to come back to them, and they're going to light up, and you could sing that song together. So you can have some really beautiful, beautiful moments. My cousin took care of his mom, and every day for an hour a day, he pulled out a photo album, and she had some memory issues. And she told stories about the pictures as he turned the page. And he learned things he never knew about our family. She lit up when that album came out, and it was a wonderful experience for the both of them. So be creative, but find ways that you can enjoy things as much as the loved one you're taking care of. And maybe it's just watching a movie that they like, where, but still it can be really great to do together.
I love that. It's, here at ASAB, Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, I always say, even if you're in the quiet with them, be in the quiet with them. It's okay, because as people move on in the disease process, some people form a form of aphasia or whatever it may be. They can't communicate. They have word salad. You don't understand what they're saying. But for the emotion, hold their hand. There's a lady that I love, and I hold her hand. I don't really say very much to her. I put on I like cello and she seems to like the cello. So I put that on. I find it on YouTube. It's not like I even know what I'm looking for, friends. I just go cello music. It comes on my phone and I sit, I hold her hand. I rub lotion in her hand, nice shea butter lotion that smells like lavender. And you know, an hour later I leave and I'm fulfilled. The human connection did happen, but we did it without words. So you also have to rethink how you communicate, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, particularly with people with aphasia.
Yeah.
We had a dear friend who actually was my age who got a very aggressive brain tumor, and he didn't have family here, but we were his family, his chosen family, and myself and my husband and a few friends were his caregivers. And I would come in every day and he would pick a CD to play. and we would play the music together. We would sing together. He did have aphasia,
Yeah.
but he was able to communicate without using words.
There you go.
And it was beautiful memory for me. I know it made him feel really good. And also I gave him some control in those situations. I'd come in and say, all right, what do you want to hear today? What kind of music should we listen to? And all he had to do was point. And I knew what he wanted. And so you can communicate in many ways without speaking. Just what you were describing, touching someone's hand and rubbing lotion on them, or just putting your hand on someone's shoulder, or brushing their hair, or putting lipstick on them, whatever. All those little things mean so much.
Oh, the human touch is amazing. It is something that I don't think, you know, COVID got us not touching each other, smiling at each other. But, you know, get your hand sanitizer, friends. I have so much hand sanitizer. I could, the whole world, I could make sure your hands I have those little things. I mean, here's one right here. I have hand sanitizer everywhere. Why? Because I now think I'm shaking people's hands. I know some people have been hesitant when I put my hand out and I'm like, don't worry, I just did squish, squish, and I'm gonna do squish, squish after I touch you, but I'm gonna touch you. In this conference that I was just in, I hugged everybody. I had my mask on, but at the end of the day, the human connection is so important, and it's powerful. And there's a reason that our DNA comes alive when it happens. Before I lose Iris, meaning our time will be up, I really want to speak to this because I apologize, friends. My cell phone was on E when I got here this morning, so I don't know if you've been putting questions in the chat, but I'm going to ask this question that I know I always get asked. What do you do with the agitation that sometimes comes at you from the person that you're caring for? How do you take that, put it in a blender, and come out of that situation still being able to be a loving caregiver? Any tips on that? Iris?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, don't take it personally. My mother's brain tumor totally changed her personality. She was a loving, wonderful mom. And when the tumor took over, she became a very angry, verbally abusive person. And I had to keep saying to myself, this isn't your mom. This is the cancer causing her to behave this way. Second thing is, don't try to win that argument. The longer that you fight and say, no, it's not Friday, it's Saturday, what are you going to win?
Yeah.
So you just go along with it. A third thing is, particularly for people with dementia or Alzheimer's, distraction is a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So you say, you know, we can talk about that later. How about some lunch? And you just try to distract them. And oftentimes they forget that ever took place. Mm-hmm. Those three things help the person you're taking care of, and they really help you too as a caregiver. So that's what I would do.
Because the stress level is too high when you match that energy, that energy, you're matching it as the caregiver, and then what happens is there's an implosion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you don't want to match it. Iris is so right. Take it down. You go down. And
lower the temperature.
Yeah, lower the temperature. And if you can leave them alone, like they're physically safe, leave them alone.
Give yourself a timeout. You just say, you know what, I'm going to go wash the dishes. And you go out of physically remove yourself from the room for a few minutes.
Mhm.
And the last thing I would say too, that I used that word collaboration before. If possible, give the person you're taking care of as much control as possible. So for example, if you're choosing clothes, okay, mom, do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? And let mom decide.
Yeah.
Because the person that you're taking care of is dealing with all the losses that they've had. They've lost their independence. They've lost the ability to speak. They've lost their body's physical abilities. So much loss. And so anytime you can do something, what would you like for lunch today? We've got this, we've got that. What would you prefer? Anytime you can give them control, that cuts the conflict too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. This is Iris, you're amazing. And so I want to ask a question. Are you supporting families now? If people got in contact with you, are you doing a consulting where you can work with them?
What what I would say is this: I'm not doing direct counseling anymore.
Okay.
But my book really has a lot of information. I also have a website. It's iwaichler.wpengine.com.
Okay.
And if people sent me a question there, I would certainly help them. I would help them. The last thing I want to say that people don't know, there's an organization called aginglifecare.org, and that's online. And it's a wonderful organization. It's a national organization made up of people like me. They're social workers and nurses who have experience in caregiving and knowledge about medical things and psychological things. All you need to do is go there and put in the zip code of the person that needs the care, and you can find someone to come into your home and to consult, to tell you what is needed. They will help with some of the scenarios we're describing, like counseling, but they also will help you plug into local services that can help you.
Okay.
And it's an individual plan. They come as little or as often as you need them. Unfortunately, insurance doesn't cover it, but even a one-time visit can be a real lifesaver for people. And knowing that there's an expert nearby that you can call on as your things change or you need more advice is a really wonderful thing. So I always let people know about that.
I love that, because that it's aginglifecare.org, and that's you put your zip code in, and then they will populate folks that are available, and you can talk to one or two or three, 5 or 6 or 7 before you make your decision on who you want to walk with you in this season of your life. But I also want to, before Iris leaves, she used a term that I want you to know is that we're starting to use in our work here in social services and all of that, chosen family. Okay, chosen family. And that those are the people that are around you. And in California, we're trying to get people who are your chosen family, once you identify them as those decision makers, give them the same rights that sometimes blood family have, but yet maybe you don't want them because of whatever reason. I'm not going to go into your personal, but you may just not want them to do it. And you have a chosen family person that you want. Sometimes in some states, legally, they have no rights and your families can override. And I know we've been advocating, there's a group of us that have been advocating for that terminology and for the protections of those individuals, aging in place and all these things that are happening to us as we live longer. And all of that is so important that you know what the terms mean. And
that's so great. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because I didn't even know. I was like, I've always said these are my chosen peeps, or my sister from another mother or from another, those kind of comments. That means those are your chosen family, right?
Yep. And we all have those people in our lives.
Don't we though?
The other thing I would say is some people set up a plan and where they have someone legally responsible for them and they never look back, and circumstances change. And maybe that person you designated moves away, you know, or, as you mentioned, families are all across the country now, or maybe that person gets sick or that person dies or whatever. So people need to kind of be up to date with what their wishes and thoughts are about this, so that everything is in place as you described.
Iris, what tell them the name of your book and where they can get your book as well, because that's, I think I'm going to get it too. I think it's a great resource.
Thank you. It's called Role Reversal: How to Take Care of Yourself and Your Aging Parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's partly my father's story and his voice and mine, and we use that as a springboard to cover all kinds of caregiving issues. So it comes from my personal and professional experience. You can get it at Amazon, but you can also have your local bookstore order it and they can get it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm trying to go back to, I was getting everything on Amazon during the pandemic and it became a habit. You know, anything you do over 30 days becomes an addiction, friends. And even that's ordering stuff on there.
No, our independent bookstores need everybody's support.
They need us, yes.
They need us.
To go back in there or go on their websites and order books and things that we need to get them happy and strong again.
Yeah.
It's been my honor and privilege here always at Life is a Sacred Journey to reach out into the world and bring voices to you that really will help you see that. I love what Iris said, that one, yes, caregiving is hard. It will tap into the places of your mind, body, and spirit that you never thought even existed. Your emotional intelligence will grow, but be stretched. My comments to you are live in the gratitude of it. As Iris said, I apologize, I had to take the phone, the doorbell's ringing. Live in the moment of it, the gratitude of it, and know that you are going to come out on the other side. You're going to have some moments, because that's what we do. We have to mourn. We have to do things. You know, I'm still mourning my brother's passing because it was so unexpected, and I will always mourn it. I mean, a little bit, because I thought I was going to have a lot more years with him, but I'm also thankful for the time that I've had with him, and I've learned some things from him. So we want to live in that balance, my friends, because when we teeter, that's when things get all yucky inside, and it gets hard to focus, and it gets hard to love ourselves and therefore love others. So Iris, if you would give our wonderful, wonderful Life is a Sacred Journey family one last thing before we close with our closing, what would it be?
I guess I would say, remember to love yourself as you love others, and good things will come from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it will help you get through challenges that seem overwhelming at the time. I loved what you just said too. It's really true and really beautiful.
Well, hang in there for a minute, Iris. I want to say goodbye to you offline if I can. Friends, you know how I close our podcast. If you are struggling, sad, feeling like your life just sucks the wazoo and the world would be better off without you, that's not true. And in America and across the world, we have this wonderful, wonderful service, the suicide hotline, and their number is 988. We will always end our podcast this way because I know how you feel. I don't know exactly how you feel. I don't know what got you to that point, but I want you to know you're not alone. I have been there. Somebody took my hand and said, no, the world will miss you. Even if at this moment you think you don't matter. And I struggled, and it took a lot of time and a lot of counseling and a whole lot of crying, and yes, but pick up the phone, text 988, call 988, do whatever you have to do to hold on for that next second, and know that somebody will help you, because your life matters. Even if somebody told you it didn't, even if they treated you like it didn't, it matters. And the ripple effect of your taking your life will be felt by me and the whole world, even if we don't know you. It's not a burden I'm giving you. I don't want you to think you should hold on for me. I hope that I'm giving you courage to call 988, and let's move move you into a place of hope so that you can live another minute, another day, to get to do whatever it is that the world created you to do. All right, friends, go out and hug a tree, pet a cat, pet a dog, and then hug yourself, doggone it, because you know what? Somebody might not hug you today, but if you hug yourself, you will feel the warmth of a bigger love than you could ever feel, even if you're waiting on somebody else to do it. So I am your host, Michelle Pope. This is Life is a Sacred Journey. This morning, we've had Iris Waichler here with us, and we are so thankful. So go out, live your best life. It's okay. Take a chance. Bye.